Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Simple Request, written by Battlelocks_. Zivzex sneered at the pathetic planet below. It spun lazily through space. An apathetic blue marble whose dominant species had somehow come to the conclusion that the best way to leave their planet was by sitting on a controlled explosion. This will be an easy conquest, he thought, tapping a claw on the railing of the upper command deck. Captain, he called the crew below, we are ready. Call the fleet. Yes, sir, the captain replied. Zizix waited patiently as the captain relayed the message to the communications officer. The communications officer then messaged the ship's relay deck, who relayed the command to the command drafts officer. Finally, the order was reached the appropriate person. A light flashed on the console in front of Zizix. To High Commander Zizix, Ravager of Wills, third in line and Admiral of the 5th Grand Fleet of the Asturians. Peace be with you and your clan. Zizix typed a quick response. And to you, clan, may there be peace. What is the purpose of this communication? High Command Zizix, Ravager of Worlds, third of his line, and Admiral of the 5th Grand Fleet of the Asturians. This is a ship relay deck. We have received a request from the command drafts officer that needs your verification. Zizix sent his reply. Your request is to send the request that has been received and acknowledged. Please send the verification request. 6 hours later, the command had been drafted, verified, spell-checked, redrafted, verified again, and sent to the comm officer. The comm officer was one of the best at his job. Within a short half an hour, he was able to send the request to send the command through to the relay deck to Zizix, who in turn verified the request. A mere 6.5 hours after arriving at this pathetic target planet of Earth, the Asturian 5th Grand Fleet was ready to be summoned. Admiral, a voice shouted. It was the ship's morale officer. What is it, Kadrex? Zizix sneered. Admiral, the crew has reached the maximum amount of working time in the day and must take a break. Zizix's angry expression faded. No, of course, Catherine. I would hate to disobey Union rules. Crew, you are dismissed. Be sure to eat and sleep and be ready for action tomorrow. We expect to receive confirmation of our request for reinforcements at any moment. Zizix watched Earth impatiently, as his ship's arrival to the solar system had been noticed almost immediately, to his dismay. But the dominant species had taken no military action. Puny humans, he muttered. Their inefficient and underdeveloped bureaucracy must force them to take years to accomplish anything of note. He had waited many long months, but today the fleet was finally arriving. More importantly, his comm officer had a breakthrough. When the officer sent the original request for reinforcements, he also had the brilliant idea to send the request to begin firing upon the planet immediately. The idea of sending 2 messages at the same time was unorthodox and risky, but the High Council seemed to approve of the daring tactic. A mere 5 months ago, they received confirmation that the fleet would be bringing with them approval for the very same fleet could begin the invasion. A process that normally took upwards of a year past the arrival of the fleet had been significantly decreased. The humans had no idea what was coming their way. Zizix grinned savagely as the fleet popped into view from subspace. Below, the crew scrambled as hundreds of ships began sending their requests to move into formation around the planet. 2 days later, the fleet was ready to fire. Zizix paused, his claw hovering over the button that would send the final confirmation to the relay team to allow the comm officer to send the command to the other ship's comm officer, who would in turn disseminate the command through the ship's crews to fire upon Earth. Soon, the planet of this puny species would be no more. This will be a glorious day for the 5th Grand Fleet, he boomed. Then pressed the button. His carapace tingled with anticipation. 5 minutes later, the guns of the fleet began to fire. 3 seconds later, they stopped. Zizek's expression grew dark. "What's happening?" he hissed. The ship's captain replied, "Sir, it appears the fleet's budget only allowed for 1 shot per ship." "Damn!" he spat. "Send the request for more budget, and prepare for a draft for a request to spend the budget on ammunition. Also remind me to send the order to create a draft of the request for ammunition that we purchased to be shipped out here to this backwaters planet." He glared at Earth, still spinning below. Although an entire volley had been fired, most of the shots had missed the planet, as the position of the ship's gunner was highly valued in the Ostorian society, and often went to children of nobles. The few shots that had landed on the planet seemed to have hit half that was blue. Unfortunately, Zizek's primary xenologist seemed to think that the blue portion was an unoccupied portion of the planet. "We will destroy you yet, Earth," he growled. A note of uncertainty rang in his voice. This conquest was proving to be tougher than he thought. "Sir, the ships are fired." "Why do you sound so calm, man? Sound the alarm!" the general cried. The aide didn't move. "Well, sir, it's just that—" "What? Spit it out! We're at war here!" the general roared as he jumped up from his chair. "Sir, they missed." "Missed what?" "Earth. That is, 2 of the 150 shots hit Earth but landed in the Pacific. No casualties." Oh. The general sat back down. Do we have confirmation from the UN that the aliens are to be treated as hostile?" "Yes, sir. It has just arrived," the aide said, presenting the document. The general snatched it and scanned it. "Very well. Tell them to fire at will." The general slouched. He had been mildly excited for the first intergalactic rumble, but so far it had been awfully boring. A few moments later, thousands of missiles filled the air and zoomed towards the ships that had been sitting dormant in orbit for the better part of a year. "Admiral! Admiral!" A messenger from the relay deck shook Zizek awake. Zizek stirred drowsily. What's going on? Why are you in my quarters? There's no way you can have fast-tracked the request for the mutiny so easily. Get back to your station." "Admiral, it's the humans. They fired upon us." Zizek bolted upright. "What?" "Impossible. Their ill-developed bureaucracy could never fulfill a request to fire so quickly." "Come, look quickly." Together they sprinted to the command deck. The rest of the crew was just beginning to stumble in drowsily as they complained about working hour violations. Zizek stared out of the window as the missile streaked towards the fleet. "Kestra above," he muttered. Then he snapped into action. "Captain, tell the command officer to send a message to the relay team. We need a fast-track in action to activate point defense systems and repel—" "Too late," the captain screamed. The missile ripped through the hulls of the ships. Explosions rocked the fleet, sending wreckage tumbling everywhere. Every ship had been critically damaged, and most of the crews had been killed within seconds. Zizek's had been one of the few exceptions. The explosion had thrown him into the lower command deck, but the comms officer had broken his fall and then shielded him from much of the shrapnel. He lay on the ground, bleeding, as alarms and red lights blared throughout the ship. With the last of his strength, he lifted himself off the ground and looked at the cracked windows towards the innocuous blue planet below. "How?" Zizek's Ravager was third of his line, the Admiral of the First Fleet of the Asturians, collapsed as his fleet burned around him. End of story. Story number 2. The Little Things, written by Marilyn of Many. "It's the unexpected stuff that gets me," I said, swirling my drink. "Like, I'll expect alien food on an alien spaceship. But the first time I heard off-world music, I thought the engine was about to fail." "Oh, I knows, right," agreed the other human, waving her own drink around. She hadn't spilt it on the spaceport floor yet, but her ship had heavier gravity than this, and she was still adjusting. "And have you smelled what passes for perfume amongst the mesmers? It's like someone cut an onion and rubbed it in hot peppers." "Wow, haven't come across that yet," I said, with a glance back towards the space docks. "We've got 2 mesmers on board. Maybe they haven't felt like getting fancy." I tried to picture either of my exoskeleton crewmates preparing for a high-class event, and my brain shorted out. Neither of them seemed to be the type. Z would stand by the punch bowl and complain about everything, while Trilly would hide behind curtains and jump out and startle people. Probably. I might be a courtship perfume, the other human was saying. Either that or it's really expensive, I swear. If our navigator wore that on a regular basis, I'd have to invest in one of those high-quality personal air filters. It was bad. Enough to make you miss people who overdid the perfume back home? I asked. She set her drink down and eat fawn. Enough to make me miss the body odor back home, and I don't say that lightly. I'll bet, I said with a toast from my own drink. It was a cherry soda in a champagne glass. The Frillians running the restaurant were so proud of their earth foods, I didn't have the heart to tell them there was anything other than a perfectly normal combination. And the fried chicken on French toast was actually good. It's been a while since I was home, though, she said, picking at the remains of her macaroni and peas. Earlier, I saw somebody wearing a scarf like my mom's, and now I keep thinking of all the things I miss. The tree outside my bedroom window, the cat purring, the sound of rain, and over an old TV show. I had a mild epiphany. Well, I said, finishing my drink, I can't help with all of that, but if you want to make a quick visit to my ship, I leaned in with a conspiratorial grin and whispered, I've got kittens. Her gasp made the people at 3 different tables look at us. Oh my God, yes, I'll pay for your food. Where did you get kittens? It's a long story, I said as she tapped on the payment interface. I'll tell you while they're busy trying to fight your shoes. With a happy squeal that caused more than a wince from the aliens nearby, she swept our dishes into the recycler. Then we were off to the space docks. End of story. I would quickly like to thank our Tier 5 patrons, Dragzoon WRE, Quantum Wednesday, Ambrose Cattell, Lord Ashrakal, Bushmaster 177, Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, and Arcadian. Thank you very much.